So my family's originally from Milazzo, Sicily, and my grandfather came here on a boat to Ellis Island to kind of find a better way of life and raised his family in Elizabeth, New Jersey. He raised three sons with my grandmother, and they basically started and found their roots there in Elizabeth.
All right, so we'll go in.
When I went to high school, I took auto mechanics as my major subject. I thought I'd be an auto mechanic someday, which I know a little bit about cars. After school, I worked on a used car lot. I used to wash the cars down for them and clean them up for 3-4 hours every day. And that inspired me to want to be in business for myself. Well, I got out of high school. I was offered this opportunity to buy the small gas station. I discussed it with my father and everything, and we could have had it practically for nothing, you might say, just for the inventory and a few $100s. Matter of fact, the total investment was only $1,200. That was for all the inventory. It was a 2-pump gas station. The building itself was, I don't think, more than 25 by 25 foot, enough to bring all your stuff in and out every day. The opportunity come to purchase another gas station that was more modern with bays that had inside your grease cars, was only a few blocks away. It was a different company, and they approached me that if I'd be interested.
Well, I think we started out in that City of Service gas station, and then we moved down the street, still on Rowway Avenue, into a larger repair center, which was about 6 bays, and at that time, back in the that was probably the late 50s, early 60s. That was a pretty big facility, and we called it Amalfe Brothers Tire Service. And so we sold tires there and did repairs. And so we went from a small city service gas station to this tire facility where we really started to do larger volume.
My motto was to, when a customer come in them days, people used to wipe your windshields off when you pull in. But I went one step further. And then we would always tell them about the air pressure. The idea of that was to get them talking about tires. Then when I would get done, I said, the tires are all nice, they're all good. They should be good for another 5,000-6,000 miles. But when you're ready for tires, get prices elsewhere and come back and see me, and I'll make sure I give you a good bargain.
This is a fully guaranteed BF Goodrich quality tire, the extra service. Now only $11.94 in the 616 size.
How's that for a price special?
With City Service was the small station. We saw more TBA out of City Service than 4 or 5 of their biggest stations in the county put together. My little station saw more.
Fill up your tank with City Service, gasoline. And get the big gallon with City Service, gasoline.
And from that point, we grew.
My grandfather thought that coming to America and being an immigrant here, he could follow a dream of being able to find a better way, raise a family. And he came here with really nothing and settled in an Italian community in Elizabeth, New Jersey, and built his family and built the foundation of our company there in Elizabeth.
And my father loved this. He wanted us always to stick together. My father was the main pusher behind this thing, even that he was born in Italy. He was a foreigner. He came here when he was 19 years old. He had a lot of common sense, so I took my brother in as a full partner. My younger brother was 5 years younger than me. We were all 5 years apart. And he was still in school, and after school, he used to come and work, pump gas and stuff. And when he got out of school, he worked for me and my brother Sam for about 3-4 months, and we took him as a 1/3 partner then. And the three of us were together for the whole length of the business. We worked side by side for at least 50 years, every single day of the week.
So my dad, my two uncles worked there, and when we were young, myself and my two cousins, Anthony and John Joseph, we worked there part-time all through grammar school and high school, changing tires, doing whatever we needed to do, sweep floors, unload trucks.
It started back, oh my God, when I was 12, 13 years old, working at our family business in Elizabeth on Saturdays, and sweeping floors and doing all the wonderful stuff, cleaning bathrooms and stacking tires and changing tires and doing whatever it takes to learn the business. That's what our uncles and father from day one, taught us what to do, how to learn everything from the beginning to whatever.
I always wanted to be in my father's business and my uncle's. I always liked playing with cars, boats, motors, building them, taking them apart. I always had a passion for the automotive aftermarket and the automotive business. And it started just by selling the parts and then elaborating from there. So I always wanted to be in the business from the day I was in high school.
Out of this lift, I turned the wheel too soon, and I whacked the front quarter, and smashed it to smithereens. And my father was like beside himself, right?
Yeah, this was what do you call it? This is where the playground started, right here.
I remember I backed it out of there, turned the wheel too much, hit the column, and then that had a.
You remember who was the king of stud and snow tires, though?
Yeah, you were good. I didn't know what the hell I was doing with the big trucks, and this is such a narrow driveway that a lot of these dents and stuff on here is probably mine. Yeah, we were first a tire warehouse, so when we were kids, the trucks used to back up right here, and we used to get in those trucks, and we would have to unload the tires by hand, like 2,000-3,000 of them at a time. And we used to have to stack them all with the different sizes, get them all stacked, counted. It would take us most of a day to unload a truck. Now, the kids of today, they get to use a forklift. Everything gets unloaded with a forklift, 1, 2, 3.
I got 23 years plus in this place. I will retire in this place. Got will in the health and everything else. Okay, I never thought we'd be here 23 years, but I never miss a day work right here. I never will miss a day work. Thanks God I'm healthy. And I don't regret that I worked right here for all my life, and I feel part of the family. That's why I say before Uncle Sammy, Uncle Tony, Uncle John, because they are like a family to me.
What's going on there, Michael? How many years did you work with JJ across the street?
The joke would be too many.
I graduated from school, and we started a auto parts store in our warehouse down the street, which I ran for a short period of time, and then we moved across the street and we built Big A Auto Parts, which was a very large auto parts store, which also we had a custom shop next to it, which I also ran. I ran for over 30-something years, and we wholesaled to the gas stations, repair shops, and we did retail over there. And then eventually went into running the 13 locations that we have, the warehouses that we are right now having.
As the next generation, John Joseph, Anthony, and I came into the business in the late 70s, we got into the wholesale business and started a distribution company called Amalfe Brothers and Sons. And we started with one location in Elizabeth, New Jersey, and we started buying products direct from the manufacturer and then selling the products to all the local gas stations and garages in the local market.
You know, the name was such appropriate at that time when we decided to make it ABNS Warehouse. Each of the three fathers had one son.
There are three brothers, John, Tony, and Salvatore, and they each had one son.
And it was just appropriate to make it Amalfe Brothers and include the sons into the name.
As we were successful in the local market, we started to expand out to the rest of New Jersey, into New York, and into the whole tri-state area. In the late 70s, we then opened up our second location in Piscataway, New Jersey, and then continued to evolve to today. Our distribution group has 13 locations from Hyde Park, Massachusetts to Richmond, Virginia.
Well, the core part of the company structure is the same. They all work hard, they're all family oriented, and they all have a goal. We just grew so quickly, and that's basically it. Just they started with satellites all over the place, and they started out with just exhaust, and then they got into brakes and everything under the car, underbody.
I was thinking about this. There was an old timer that used to work for us, Rocky Citro, and John had me go around with him to certain calls when I was just starting out, and he took me to a place, I'll never forget the story, Bayonne Auto Parts in Bayonne, New Jersey. And Rocky would walk in there, he was an old timer, he'd walk in there with a cigar hanging out of his mouth, and he'd be talking with the cigar in his mouth and be asking for some orders from this guy, and I'm just watching him as he's talking to the guy. The ash is falling on the guy's counter, and Rocky would take this order and take a napkin from the guy's countertop and write an order on his napkin, and then he'd bring it back to the office and Elizabeth there, and he'd hand it to a girl sitting in there and said, "Here, here's the order." So basically, what I'm trying to say is, from the napkin days of taking orders to doing things on iPads today and computers, it's come a long way. Come a long way.
So John, Paul, Anthony, and John Joseph ran everything that had to do with ABNS. Over the course of the 23 years that I've been here, I've been given the opportunity to run the day-to-day operations with the younger family generation, AJ, Thomas, Rob, and Triple J, or John J. And I think the major difference, my observation is, of this family versus other family businesses that I know or have interacted with is, for as long as I've been around, the 23 years, nothing is given to anybody. Everything is earned. Everybody's asked to work as hard as the person before them.
If the second generation coming in does not have that same work ethic as the generation prior, I think a lot of family businesses fail there.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine it's like trying to run before you can walk, I don't understand how anybody can really appreciate all the facets of this business and all the different positions in this company until you've done most of them.
I was starting out pushing brooms and cleaning up the aisles at Big A. From there I worked at our other location, throughout the warehouses, and man, I've done it all. I've checked parts off, I've put stuff away, I've driven fork trucks, I've done everything, and you can't learn those key fundamentals of how to run a business without doing that. It's not just, oh, you're Amalfe, you walk through the door and, oh, here you get a promotion, here's your Lamborghini, everything like that. It's no, you got to work hard, and then that's where you get the grit. That's where you get those key fundamentals where you can use the experiences you have putting away. Yeah, it's tedious work. Yeah, it's stuff that maybe not everyone wants to do, but when you look back at it, it's something where, hey, I've done that. I've had that problem before. I know how to fix that. And you can't replace experience like that. So yes, you got to start from the bottom and work your way up, no matter what.
I think when you tell somebody you work for your family business, I think sometimes they assume like, oh, you could just do whatever you want when you go to work. But it's actually, I would say the opposite of that, where you come in every day and you never want to screw up because you want to make your dad proud, you want to make your uncles proud.
ABNS as a whole is kind of the last step in the process. the New World Friction can make all the brakes they want, and auto parts stores could distribute them all they want, but if AB&S doesn't get a sale, they don't get to make another pad to replace that, to move it through the chain. So I kind of feel like there's a weight on AB&S to kind of get to that next step for them to manufacture more and distribute more. So I think that's really what pushes me every day, knowing that, hey, New World Friction, Auto Parts Source, even though they have other customers, they depend on us to get it out the door and sell the product so they could remanufacture.
One of our big strengths, I personally believe this, having dealt with a lot of the countermen that work for the company, is they're excellent people to talk to. They're all have their own niche that they've fallen into. I know a lot of people typically go to Brian Petretta in the call room for universal exhaust parts, where they're looking for something that's hard to find. They might reach out to Scott Konigsberg. Very rarely do you pick up the phone in the call center and have a customer not ask for somebody by name. And they've formed really good relationships with a lot of the customers, and they tend to trust them a little bit more, that specific counterman. And that's definitely one of the strong suits, I would say, where if you call another automotive distributor, you might not get that same feeling. You might feel like you're just a customer with a number compared to a name, a face, somebody that you have a prior relationship with.
All four of them work for Brian Canigallo at AB&S, and they all have their roles. And there's one thing I've always told Brian is there's only probably one thing. He's been with me for about 20 years, and there's only one thing that probably could get him fired, and that is if he cuts any slack to an Amalfe son. If he does that and I catch him doing that, I would fire him.
A funny story. Wasn't funny at the time, but it's funny now many years later. My car was being repaired at Amalfe Brothers Tire at a 1988 Mercury Cougar. Anthony said, hey, why don't you take it down to our shop? We'll take a look at it. We'll fix it. We'll shuttle you to Edison so you could work. And later in the day, I went up to him to see how they were making out on the repair. And he said, oh, you didn't hear the bad news. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, the car fell off the lift. And I said, what do you mean the car fell off the lift? And he said, oh yeah, your car fell off the lift. I don't know that we could repair it. And so I was obviously really nervous. I was 18. It was my only car. And then he started laughing. And that was my first experience at, Anthony's, tremendous humor.
Would you say you have your father's sense of humor?
I think I'm funnier than him.
Can you describe a happy memory or unforgettable moment during your career working here?
Well, I have plenty of them, but none that I could speak about. But the one that was just recent, we had a poker night where they invited all the people from the whole company, New York, Pennsylvania, everywhere to come together, which was great because we don't get to see everybody. You're just talking to a face. And we had a great time. And for me, the best part was to see my bosses up there, except for one. He's not with us no more, but they hired me, and that was just to see them and their family and their kids, because now it's fourth generation. So that is something I remember. It's something that they should be very proud of.
I love what I do, and I love that I have the ability to work with my family at AB&S.
Along the way, in the wholesale business, we decided that we needed to have a stronger control of our own destiny. We wanted to vertically integrate into manufacturing. So in 1988, we bought a company, an exhaust manufacturing company in Toronto, Ontario. And that exhaust manufacturing company, we bought the assets of and moved it to Hopkinsville, Kentucky, which we built a brand new manufacturing facility that manufactures exhaust today.
We're in Hopkinsville, Kentucky at OEM. We manufacture anything to do with CNC pipe bending, primarily exhaust systems for cars. Actually, back in the 70s and 80s, we were doing business with a company called Grand Exhaust, which had a pipeline, or exhaust line. It was called OE Exhaust at that time. Did business with them for several years. They fell in some hard times. When they were going out of business, we decided we had to get into manufacturing, and that's how this whole vertical integration actually started back then. Kentucky was offering big tax incentives to bring new industry into their state. Started producing product. Obviously, it's easy to start when you don't have any overhead, basically, other than taxes and.
Anthony is a good boss. Now, he's a very good boss. He's very understanding. Because, for one thing, he and I are the same age, so we've been in the working world as many years, and he is very good about getting a point across without making you mad.
Seeing the family being incorporated into the business, it's been, it's most enjoyable to see that the children and the sons and the grandsons and aunts and uncles, all contribute to the business. That, that's, family don't go nowhere. Family's going to be there. A lot of these factories, that are company owned, they'll go out of business. But as far as I can tell, the Amalfe brothers are moving in and staying in to stay up with what the customer demands. And, that's what we got to have if we want to stay in business.
When I first came here, we were just basically doing pipe, no mufflers at all. And over the years, when Anthony started overseeing things, we started doing the mufflers, and he decided that for us to be competitors, that we needed to assemble a lot of these products because we could probably sell them better than just the single parts. And that, some of the customers want just the pipe that is attached to the muffler, so we do it both ways. So whatever the customer wants is usually how we do things.
I was trained on quality throughout. You don't work in the car industry unless you know quality. So I enjoyed just putting out quality parts. We all get along, everybody has disagreements, but, when we have a problem, ain't no panicking. We all just dig in on on whatever the problem and get a solution. And, I like, peace at work. There's nothing like peace at work, so you can go home and have peace.
So in 2004, we're fast forwarding to 2004, and in 2004, we were brought the opportunity to buy a couple companies from Acme Mills Corporation. And so we bought a company in Richmond, Virginia called Quality International, and we bought a brake pad manufacturing plant in Cambridge, Ontario, which at the time was called Novatech. And we bought all the assets of these two companies and originated Momentum USA. So first we manufacture brake pads in Cambridge, Ontario. We make a full complement of brake pads for all passenger car, light truck, medium duty, all the way to the school buses and some of the large fleet type trucks.
John and his family got involved. I was really impressed with their approach to the business. And especially we used to have about 28 brake manufacturing plant here from Cambridge all the way to Montreal. And now we are only two companies left. So 2007, John's family and we had a lot of conversation. We decided that, let everybody go to overseas or wherever they find cheap labor, etc. And we will grow here because John and his family had that vision too, that we will be needed here. If you move all the manufacturing from here to overseas, there are going to be challenges, and still the customers will be still needing company like ours here to supply them, especially when there's we are going through right now coronavirus. There are always challenges, logistical challenges, or some war happens, something. And you need a supply chain here as a backup and as a primary vendor to make sure this to their interest too, so we are healthy. And also, to our interest, we know that there's going to be growth here. Like, that's we believed, and I think that was very successful thinking. That's very successful for us. And John and his family had a great vision to see that, right? So
he always guide me, hey, Lucky, you need to do this, improve your this thing, you need to improve your skills on this side, whatever. So he does, like both of them, they help me a lot from day one. Because of them, I'm here. So they let me prove myself. So I'll say, yes, I have really good relationship with the Amalfis. I'll say that, yeah.
In my experience, we had almost 15 industry, the brake pads industry, producing brake pads in Canada. Now we have only 2 or 3 main player, and we are the leading one because we do 100% manufacture in our plant. Many companies change that. So I would say that we, as a North American producer, we would be proud on our brake pads, and we're doing 100% in the plant. We're doing great, and we're gonna do far better in the near future because all this new machinery that we're buying and try to improve and see how we can do the more and more quality check and control ourselves rather than depend on somebody else.
Auto Parts Source is our global distribution center where we import products from all over the globe on any complementary products that we want to sell in addition to our brake pads. And in addition to that, it's the home of our filter manufacturing facility where we make a world-class cabin air filter that we sell to some of the biggest names in the automotive aftermarket. And we are a trendsetter in cabin filter technology.
Worked at H&H Distributors, which was owned by Marty Holtz out in California. And then from there, H&H Distributors broke off and formed Quality International. Then I worked for Mitch Bennett for many years. And from there, we were purchased from Acme Mills in Detroit. And Acme Mills ran us for a little while until they ran us in the ground. And we were closing Auto Parts Source. Well, Auto Parts Source was a big vendor for the Amalfis and AB&S.
And I always kind of think that's kind of funny because, then he bought the company and we were working for him, which is kind of good. He didn't let me go. So I thought that must have represented it pretty well. So,
we're selling other manufacturers. Before we were just importing parts and selling them to, jobbers or garages, and it's evolved tremendously. It doesn't even have the same look or feel or anything. It's totally different.
It's been an interesting change. I think what we have done more is dove into what we consider, again, vertical integration. We're all working under the umbrella of Momentum. We share off of all the companies. We give strength to each other. We build strength from each other. I think it's been very promising. It's been hard, but I think any company that's going to be a prosperous company and a surviving company, the road's not going to be easy. It's going to have bumps down the road, and we've had our bumps, but I have not felt like at any time during those bumps that, I wanted to give up ship and leave. I think having the ownership of a family-owned business owning the company makes a difference because it's more family-driven with family drives, and you feel a part of it. Whereas before, when we were owned by a guy out in California or we were owned by people up in Detroit, it was never that hands-on, get in your face, get in the dirt. with you mentality. Now I feel like with the Amalfe's owning the company, they're here, they're hands-on, they're in the trenches with us, and we're building the companies together.
I would say that we are a company, privately held company, that can give you the mom and touch feel, yet we have all the tools in our tool basket that a larger, conglomerate might have. So, but yet we're gonna be closer to you and more intimate, but yet we do have all the assets that larger companies, typically have, whether it's IT, product management. We really have a skilled set of people experienced in all different aspects of what drives our business. So we're very fortunate that way.
I remember the first few years were difficult because John had basically taken a bankrupt company and tried to turn it around. So it was cash flow and vendor relations. It was a little tight in the beginning, but you could tell they had a plan. And after a few years, it started working itself out and we started to become profitable. So, and then the last few years, it's been really a lot of growth, a lot of activity. In fact, I think it was May of 2017, the filter department had a huge year in the middle of us, me and Luke, trying to remodel the offices. And I remember it was quite difficult and stressful. And I was trying to be a contractor and a shipping guy, and I was probably mentally and physically worn out and stressed out. And I remember John stopped me one day outside the filter offices because we had just moved over there to the new warehouse. And in his coaching way said, "David, relax, breathe. It's not all on you. You got teammates. We're behind you. Quit stressing out." So, that meant a lot to me that he took the time to recognize that I was stressed out and, gave me a few words of encouragement. So, but yeah, it's changed a lot. There's been a lot going on the last few years.
We are definitely taking the long view of how do we build a successful organization that's going to get handed off to the next generation of their family and is going to be around for the next generation that comes behind them and into, hopefully many generations down. And I think they're doing a great job of making those serious investments over time. They're in it for the long haul. That's very apparent to me.
I mean, again, I think it's, with them constantly not staying still and wanting to, get bigger and better, just growing and, adding additional companies that can help their company. I mean, even when they bought Auto Parts Source, Auto Parts Source was AB&S's, probably biggest customer. So, to be able to buy us and kind of control, your costs going to your other portion of the company. And it's about the same, with manufacturing filters. You're helping to control more of your cost, that way. And I think with, the acquisitions they've made over the years and to continue to grow and their vision, and, and that's what, basically our part is, to understand their vision.
What was the argument that you made to start manufacturing?
Again, core comp. You want to be core. Or you don't. Through importing for the last 30 years, you get to see things, and we didn't know exactly what was going to happen, but I know we felt like something was going to happen and interrupt the supply chain. There was little hiccups here and there with freight, and then the whole thing with Chinese New Year's and going there and see the middle class growing, and then they're struggling to get labor, and then they want to increase your cost because their labor goes up because their middle class is growing. We wanted to be in control, and those things you're not in control of. When you get a 10% increase on ocean freight, it affects what you're doing. You're tied into contracts, for a couple of years with customers, and you can't afford an increase. You can't afford a supply chain problem. Even the electrical issues that they had were a problem. So the argument was, doesn't matter as long as I'm not trying to save you money. If I can save you money, good. I mean, that's gravy. It's to be core. It's to be in control of your own destination. You can't take, a third of your business or a half of your business or whatever and not have complete control over it. It was getting to be too big and too important not to have complete control over it from, ultimately I'd like to be making the raw materials here. I don't want to, not sure we'll ever get there in my lifetime, but that if you controlled it all the way from raw materials to end user, you're in control of it. The only person you have to blame is you if you can't execute it. So that's the main thing for me was the control. I mean, and if I can be competitive, I don't have to be cheaper. If I can be competitive against, my factories that I bought from all those years, then to me that was the main thing is the control over all aspects of it. And that's, you can't trust your part of the business to other people.
Been a complete learning process. It's good, and it's been a growing process. And it's been painful sometimes, this growing process, and sometimes we have to drag these projects along kicking and screaming because we're learning as we're doing this, but it's been a complete learning process. And I mean, we started from the ground up with this manufacturing thing. We, had no machines, no idea how to run it, to now we have a machine and now we're learning how to do it. And I think we're actually, hopefully other people would agree, getting good at what we're doing.
I think I'm very proud of where we're at. I think we've made remarkable strides. But also disappointed because I know we could do better. So not satisfied. But if you really look at, we took, a piece of equipment that none of us ever ran before. We've never built a filter here in this building. We don't have, didn't have manufacturing culture whatsoever. We were a warehouse that, imported parts and pulled them off the truck and put them on the shelf and shipped them out. And we did a 180 and, and started a manufacturing facility, plopped it right in the middle of a warehouse, and took people that needed to learn how to run a machine, what a machine meant, planning, and we had to find raw material suppliers and all of the things that we did. If you look at what we did, it's pretty amazing. That being said, we could have done better. There's no doubt. There's a bunch of talented people here, and we still had a business to run in the middle of it. So we were still importing. We were still running our business in the middle of trying to do this. So, we should never be down on ourselves for where we're at a year later. We made 1 million cabin filters last year and probably made 800,000 of those in the last 6 months, it seemed like. But, pretty proud. You want it to be perfect, but I guess it never would be at that point. But I think we did a pretty good job.
So as I'm interviewing both you and John, I'm seeing a trend that I believe might be the core value, or like just one of the themes of the Amalfe family, and that's really respecting your father and looking up to him.
Oh, definitely.
Do you think the founders would be proud of the companies today?
Absolutely. That is the word. Absolutely. My grandfather would be so proud. Very, very proud of the way the business has progressed and developed. Very, very proud.
I think we've been successful for the length of time, for 75 years, because it's been instilled in us for the 70, well, not for the 75 years, but it's been instilled in us since we've been, 1 year old. All about family, all about the trustworthiness between everybody else. My grandfather, who, was part of the starter, the foundation of the company 75 years ago, instilled in my parents and in Johnny's parents the same values. And they have transpired from my parents now to us, and which we're trying to transpire into our kids.
I have two partners, Anthony and John Joseph, and our relationship is great. We're like brothers. We were brought up with one thing in mind. Our grandfather told us at a very early age, when we were unloading tractor trailers together, we either learned to be a team, cooperate, get a job done together without fighting and bickering, or we were never going to be successful. We also learned from the fact that my dad and his two brothers never argued. When they had disagreements, they would settle them quietly. They would disagree, but come to some sort of common decision and move on. So, a combination of working together with each other from when we were very young, listening to our grandfather, and then watching our fathers work so well together, basically it was all the teaching moments we needed to work together really well now. We all have our roles in the business. We all work well together. And like I said, even that we're cousins, we really act like brothers.
I think it's a two-way street. The kids all think of us almost as their, even though they're not uncles, they call us uncles with respect. They admire each one of us in an individual way. I bring something to the table that John Paul doesn't, or JJ brings something to the table that I don't. So there's strengths and weaknesses amongst all of us, and I think the kids understand that, and they go to the appropriate person for guidance for that particular thing.
Yeah, I don't think any of us have ever deliberately wanted to do anything other than, make our fathers proud. I would speak for Thomas too. I'm sure playing baseball when we're 8, 9, 10 years old, there was nothing better than, having somebody be proud of you. And I think that's carried over into working here is, you might not be able to hit home runs while you're here, but you can certainly hit singles all day and keep the ball moving forward. That is definitely something that I enjoy is definitely having the positive meetings where we're driving the ball forward and making progress here every day, and getting that feedback from the owners that we're hitting on all cylinders, and the ball is definitely not stale or falling behind for sure.
Not everyone has this opportunity in life, and not everyone gets the chance to have the ability to go to their father or go to any family member, with business or personal, problems, and get their guidance so easily. Some days you could take it for granted, but, other days you're like, what would I possibly do without, the guidance I've had and the people around me? It's really something where I can't express enough how much I love that aspect of having that on a day-to-day basis where I can go, it's an open door policy. I can go to anyone with any problem, with any situation I can. That's a big one for me.
I think what makes an Amalfe is somebody who is fiercely loyal, someone who's tenacious, someone who has grit, someone who loves their family, someone who's competitive, someone who wants to win every day, someone who has passion in every aspect of their life.
To be an Amalfe is to check your ego out the door, to have a work ethic and passion that just, the normal individual doesn't have. It's, the ability to just deal with adversity every single time it punches you in the face and just get back up and, go back after it. It's the ability to just go through ups and downs and just always find a way to prevail and come out on top no matter what the situation is, whether it's business, family, sports, anything. There's no giving up, there's no losing, there's no in being an Amalfi, you know. It's saying yes or finding a way.
Being an Amalfi, you're held to a little higher standard than most people out there. You know, I'd like to always believe that there's only two types of people out there, Amalfis and the people that wish they were Amalfis.
Yeah, I don't like to think about retirement because I think retirement would be boring. I don't really know what I would want to do in retirement. So I really look forward to continuing to grow this company. This is not a job to me. This is something that I wake up every morning excited to do. It's a journey that I feel driven, compelled to continue to create and grow this company into the vision that I've always had for it. My grandfather, my father gave me this opportunity, and I'm still driven by the things that they taught me long ago about this. And so as long as I have that burning desire to continue to grow this company and lead this company, I'm going to do that. But I'm going to spend most of my time now planning out the next 5 years of where we go, what we do, who we acquire, and setting the foundation of creating good young leaders to take this company for the next 25 years. I often tell the younger generation that at the 100-year anniversary, they will just roll me in on a wheelchair so that I can wave hello to everybody when they're celebrating their 100th year in business.
What does the future look like? Well, if I look into the crystal ball, I think, again, we're going to continue to grow. I get to see myself and my two partners retiring probably, hopefully within 5 years or 7 years or so, and starting to enjoy a little bit of time off. Well deserved after all these years of trying to bring the company to where it is today.
On the beach in Hawaii, or maybe not Hawaii, but maybe down the shore somewhere. but always overseeing as much as you can of the business growing and being successful.
Even though they say they'll retire and pass the keys, I know they'll still always be there. They'll always be there for advice. They'll always be there for, any questions we have.
Actually directly report to Brian Canigallo, who I always have considered like family. But I guess in a certain way, everybody reports to my dad or one of my uncles. And it's awesome to have bosses that you come in every day and you really want to make them proud. It's a driving force to everything I do. And it's a great feeling.
That I've appreciated every opportunity they've given me for as long as I've worked here. It's probably not easy trusting one of your kids or one of your nephews to work as hard as you can every day, and let alone understand that they're your employee, but also your own blood, and that's a difficult line to walk on every day, and I don't think they could have done a better job of that. I don't know what that would be like if I was ever in their position to see one of us succeed or fail at something, and how the proper way to react to that is. So I would definitely say that they've nailed that aspect of teaching us to teaching us to grow and teaching us how to act as young adults.
Being an Amalfi is something that is in you. It's the fabric of who I am as a person. It's made me the man who I am today. It's the goals and the guidelines set from my father and his cousins and their fathers and their fathers' fathers. They have made and shaped the person who I am today. And it's something where I could only hope to pass those same guidelines and the ability to share the same guidelines to my own children is really what it's all about. It's something where, you know, being an Amalfi is not only, it's not just a last name, you know, it's a lifestyle. You know, there's so many people that look up to that name. And you gotta push every day in order to, you know, really make a difference and make an impact, because it's a legacy. You know, it's not just you. You know, it's an entire legacy of Amalfis that we have to keep, you know, keep proud, and keep going every day. And, you know, that's what makes this company so great.
I think a lot of family businesses don't necessarily have a succession plan like we have had from generation to generation. I think the reason the Amalfi family has been successful, I think a lot of credit's due to the ownership groups. My grandpa, my Uncle Tony, my Uncle John, my dad, my Uncle John, and my Uncle Anthony. I think both generations of owners have had a vision that they've been able to execute. I think the ownership groups have always put the family ahead of individual success or individual recognition. They always do what's best for the families, the Amalfi family as a whole. And I think that's been one of the keys to success.
You know, I can't say enough about, you know, my father and how he ran the business, because he was the quiet one and he let his actions speak. He didn't have to talk. He wasn't a loud talker. He wasn't flamboyant. He just let his actions speak. And he always instilled in me that if you wanted to get something in life, you had to work at it, that nothing was going to be handed to you.
Is he the entrepreneur that you aspire to?
Absolutely. You know, my father is clearly the biggest influence in my life, bar none. He basically set me on the road to be successful, and I think he's looking upon what I've been able to accomplish with this company, and he's smiling at me and saying, "Son, good job."
Our next category presentation this evening is for the New Jersey Family Business Entrepreneur of the Year. Here to present this award is market leader at PNCR Honored Platinum sponsor. Please welcome Ted Knaus.
Thank you, Mark, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Our family business finalists have a passion for sharing wisdom and experience through the generations. It's in their DNA. At the core of their individual success is a strong sense of identity, loyalty, and stewardship. These entrepreneurs also have their sights set on another prize, and that's creating a long-lasting legacy. The 2018 Family Business Entrepreneur of the Year in New Jersey is John Paul Amalfi, Momentum USA.
To my family, being an entrepreneur is a very, very 24/7 type of job. My wife, Patty, my three sons, Michael, Thomas, Stephen, they're my foundation, they're my rock. It made it a lot easier to go to work every day, totally dedicated to what you're trying to accomplish, when you knew at home you had the type of support that I had. As far as Momentum USA is concerned, it's been a journey since 1945. My grandfather was an Italian immigrant who came here for a better way. He started in a city service gas station with his three sons, my dad and my two uncles. When we were young, myself and my two partners, John Joseph and Anthony, this is what we did to make money. We worked part-time for the company. In 1988, I took over the presidency of the company, and I knew that we had to build a toolkit for the future. we had to compete against the biggest and the brightest in the automotive aftermarket. How was I going to do that? My vision was to manufacture here in North America. We manufacture parts in Canada. We manufacture parts here in the United States. While everybody else was exiting and manufacturing offshore to take labor out of their parts, we doubled down and manufactured here. I knew that I had to create something other than a commodity, because a commodity is just a part for a price. I had to create added value products that had a story that I could sell. On top of that, I had to have a vision that we could execute and out-hustle our competition. So our vertical integration strategy of manufacturing the product and then distributing it nationally through our company-owned distribution network, where we control the destiny of our parts all the way to our consumer, to technician, onto your car. To me, that was the strategy back in 1988 that I had the vision to want to execute. So with my two partners, 24/7, the dedication was to accomplish this goal. Now we have a fourth generation, my son and three nephews, that will take this company to the next level. To my Momentum USA employees, 600 strong, I couldn't do it without all of them. We have a motto at Momentum: we check our egos at the door, and it starts with me. I don't like talking about myself. And we're all in all the time, all 600 of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
You know, I wish my father was still here today to see what we're doing today, to see how we are growing both in size, scale, reputation, product, technology. You know, we started in a little city service gas station, and now we're a corporation, a multinational corporation in several countries with 600 employees. And it's just amazing to look back at where we started to where we are today. And I wish my dad was here to enjoy the fruits of what we're experiencing today. My two uncles are here today and healthy, and I think they're very proud every day of what we accomplish. And we keep them up to date on everything. And what they've always given us is common sense, wisdom. They always broke things down into the simplest terms, simplest business terms. And sometimes you can overthink subjects. With them, it always was, they used their own ingenuity and just their own street sense as to how to make decisions and run the company. They didn't learn anything. They didn't go to college. My dad didn't graduate high school. He left high school to help put food on the family's table. So they came up the hard way. They didn't learn anything in books. They learned everything that they knew just by using their own common sense and their own ingenuity on how to do things. And you can learn a lot from that.
I'm very proud of the three of them, and I'm extra proud of their children. They are the real people that I want to see succeed, and they know the business from day one. They know the product. I can honestly say that my grandchildren know more about a product than I do today. They know how they're built, and they know everything. So I'm very happy, and I brag all the time. I'm known to brag about my kids. I call them all my kids.